College, a time of new beginnings, friendships, and dreams. But for some students, it's also a time of unimaginable horror. These are not just stories. They're accounts of terror. Let's uncover the truths that no one dares to speak. It started on a freezing winter night in a small college dorm. The girl, Sarah, was wide awake, scrolling through her phone, trying to fight off the chill in the air. Her roommate, Amanda, was lying in bed, motionless under the blanket. Suddenly, Sarah heard it. A low, guttural whisper. At first, she thought Amanda was talking in her sleep, but the sound didn't stop. It became clearer, words she couldn't understand. Sarah leaned closer, but as she looked over, her heart stopped. Amanda wasn't in her bed. The whispering grew louder, coming from the corner of the room. Sarah's hands trembled as she grabbed her phone's flashlight. Slowly, she turned it on, the beam cutting through the darkness. There, crouched in the corner, was Amanda. Her back faced Sarah, her hands digging into the wall as if clawing through it. Her hair hung loose, covering her face. Sarah whispered, "Amanda, are you okay?" Amanda turned her head, but not her body. The movement was unnatural, like a broken puppet. Her eyes were wide, pupils dilated, her lips moving silently. Then she smiled, too wide for a human face. "He's watching us," Amanda said in a voice that didn't sound like hers. "He's coming for you next." The lights flickered, and Amanda let out a deafening scream. Sarah blacked out. The next morning, Amanda was gone. Her bed was untouched, her belongings missing. When Sarah asked the dorm staff, they told her something chilling. There had been no record of Amanda ever living there. Sam was a dedicated student, often burning the midnight oil in the campus library. He loved the silence. But one night, that silence turned into something sinister. It was 3 a.m., and the library was deserted. Sam was buried in his books when he felt it, a cold breeze brushing past him. He glanced around. All the windows were closed. Shrugging it off, he returned to his notes. But then he heard it, faint footsteps echoing in the aisle behind him. Slowly, he turned around. Nothing. Sam laughed nervously, "I'm just imagining things." But as he turned back, his blood ran cold. In the reflection of the glass door ahead, he saw her. A woman in a tattered white dress stood behind him. Her face was pale, her features hollow. Her long, dark hair covered most of her face, but her eyes, they glowed faintly in the dark. Sam spun around, but no one was there. The air grew heavier, and the sound of pages flipping filled the library. Books fell from the shelves one by one. Panicked, Sam grabbed his bag and ran for the exit. But the doors wouldn't budge. Then she whispered his name. He turned and saw her face just inches from his own. Her grin was wide, her teeth jagged. She raised a bony finger and pointed at his chest. Sam felt a sudden pressure. The next morning, the library staff found him slumped over his desk, his heart stopped. The security cameras? They showed him talking to thin air, his expression frozen in terror. Two friends, Mia and Elena, were having a movie night in their dorm. The clock struck midnight, and they joked about the campus ghost stories. Then came a loud knock at the door. They exchanged confused glances. No one visited this late. Elena opened the door. The hallway was empty. "Probably a prank," Mia said, closing it. But the moment they sat back down, the knocking started again. This time, it was louder. "Who's there?" Elena shouted. No response. Curious, she peered through the peephole. Her face turned pale. "There's someone out there," she whispered. "Their eyes, they're glowing." Mia pulled her away from the door, locking it. The knocking turned to pounding, then scratching. The lights flickered, and the room grew cold. Suddenly, the lights went out. In the pitch-black room, they heard breathing. Deep, raspy, close. Mia fumbled for her phone flashlight. When she turned it on, they both screamed. A shadowy figure stood in the corner. Its face was obscured, but its eyes burned like embers. The figure lunged toward them. And just like that, the lights came back on. The room was empty. The next morning, their dorm mates found the door wide open. Inside, the walls were covered in scratch marks, and the two friends were never seen again. The old sorority house had been abandoned for decades. But one night, on a dare, a group of students decided to explore it. The moment they entered, they felt the temperature drop. The walls were covered in dust, the air thick with decay. "Let's split up and explore," one of them suggested. Reluctantly, the group split into pairs. A faint giggle echoed through the house. At first, they thought it was one of their friends playing a prank. But then came the sound of footsteps, running, heavy, and frantic. One of the girls, Lisa, called out, "Is someone there?" Her flashlight flickered, and she saw a shadow dart past her. Upstairs, another pair stumbled upon an old mirror. The glass was cracked, but it reflected something chilling. A girl in a blood-stained dress standing behind them. Panicking, they ran back downstairs, but the front door wouldn't open. The house seemed to come alive. Doors slammed shut, and whispers filled the air. Lisa screamed as she was dragged into the darkness. The others ran to find her, but all they found was her flashlight, shattered on the floor. Suddenly, the giggling stopped, replaced by a chilling voice. "You shouldn't have come here." The survivors barely made it out. And Lisa? Her body was never found. Some say her spirit now roams the sorority house, waiting for her next victim. These stories are real. They're warnings. So the next time you hear a knock, a whisper, or a giggle, ask yourself, are you really alone? Sleep well, if you can.